What's up, guys? LQ here with the LQ Review. Thank you so much for joining me here at my YouTube channel. This is where I talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that I love to talk about. Movies, video games, comic books, and TV shows. And right now I'm going to talk about the Hulu original movie, Carved. So this will be a quick review, straight to streaming horror movie about a killer pumpkin at Halloween time. This movie was all sorts of ridiculous. First of all, DJ Qualls is in it. I thought that was pretty cool. I haven't seen much of him lately. The new guy was weirdly enough, was one of my favorite movies back in the 90s, and it was cool seeing him in a movie again. I'm sure he's been around doing stuff, but just nothing that I've really caught him in. And he was good in this. He wasn't in it a ton, but he was good in it. So let's talk about the movie. This movie is about a group of people who are forced to come together in this historical reenactment village to fight a vengeful pumpkin. So it starts out, they're at a Halloween party and they're all dressed up in Halloween costumes and they're carving pumpkins. And literally we see them with their knives, plunging their knives into these pumpkins, and you literally see this one pumpkin who's like, nah, this ain't happening. And he goes on a killing spree, starts taking them all out, and they scatter, and then they all end up having to come together to fight this thing. It's completely ridiculous, completely silly, and it's one of those movies where it has to be categorized as a horror comedy, because it's not something you can take seriously. It's not scary enough to really be a horror movie, but it's also not really a comedy, right? It's meant to scare. It just doesn't do a good job of it because the concept is so incredibly ridiculous. So this is it. I mean, it appears to be mostly a CGI rendered pumpkin. Most of its kills is from its vines that connect to it, and it shoots its vines out and stabs people with the vines and wraps the vines around them and chokes them out and all that. Completely silly. And because it was so silly and so ridiculous, it's difficult to get invested into it. Every now and then you'll find these silly concept horror movies that work despite their silliness. This isn't one of those. This is one of those where I just kept on rolling my eyes at it. The CGI just didn't really work. A lot of the acting was subpar, and it just felt cheap. And I think that's my biggest complaint with this movie is it just felt cheap. It felt like it was not a good enough concept to get a good budget, so they threw it together for Halloween content on Hulu. I would skip this one if I were you. It wasn't scary enough to warrant the time as a horror movie, and it wasn't funny enough. And that's the problem with it. You want your horror comedies to have some funny in it, to have some comedy, and there just wasn't enough funny moments in here to warrant it being a horror comedy. I think they tried to go straight horror on this, and it just missed the mark consistently. In terms of scariness and comedy. So I would skip this one. It was cool seeing DJ Qualls in it, but I would skip this one, guys. All right, Carved. What do you think of it? Did you watch it? Let me know in the comments down below. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.